Good evening, everyone. No, this is not Az's younger brother. This is, in fact, a baby-faced Az alongside Mark for episode 10 of FPL BlackBox. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. It's nice to see you, although I don't recognise you. I feel slightly ill at ease at this young whippersnapper in front of me. Do you want to tell the folks what you're up to? Because it's an explanation, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I've never done it before, but I thought this year given the circumstances and lockdown, I thought I'd give Movember a go. So you can see there is the beginnings of a rather horrible moustache forming. I think by the end of the month it's going to be pretty bad. So shaved for the first time in over 10 years. So it's a pretty big deal for me. So if you want to donate to that, I'll post a link in the description, and all money is being raised for men's mental health.
Yeah, please donate, because Az doesn't want to look like Magnum PI for nothing, does he? So
it's going to happen.
I know.
It's growing quicker than I thought it would. I think it's going to be pretty bad.
It's the testosterone. It's just out of control. That's what it is.
Well, you know me, Mark. You know me.
No doubt fueled by green arrows. Green arrows. Let's talk FBL, because this has been a good week, Az, hasn't it? At last.
We've got to enjoy it. We've got to enjoy it while it lasts. What we need is 2 in a row, though, because we had this and then we fell back to before going back to red. But yeah, come on, we're on the green trail now.
Yeah, so we're going to look at our teams, but one of the main focuses of tonight is I've got some nice data on creative players tonight to look at. Now, my excuse for this is really just so we can look at replacements for Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, because they're still in my team. And I'm reluctantly at the point of getting rid of at least one of them, maybe even both. So I started looking at defenders, and then I stumbled upon some really surprising data. So I looked at creative data across the board, and what we're going to look at tonight again is the increasing role that fullbacks have made in terms of creating chances for their teams. I mean, they're right up there, as you'll see, with the most creative players in their teams. And a few in particular stand out. So tonight we're going to look at that creative data. We're going to look at crosses, passes into the box, and chances created, and look at the top 10 overall, top 20 overall, but also some of the key fullbacks that we've already identified as targets this season. There's some surprising
You're
stats
not going to tell me how great Trent is, are you?
Oh, well, he does stand out, but that's not the idea. I think is, and this is something that Late Rise has been pushing on Twitter, is that there are other fullbacks out there for less money who can produce, perhaps not on the same level as Trent last season, but possibly on the same level as him this season, based on what we're seeing so far. So it's going to be an interesting section. We'll get to that in a bit once we've got through all the gloating. So let's do some gloating. Let's get your team up. Let's do that. So 72, wasn't it?
72. I mean, a bit of luck on my way to 72. I was absolutely raging when Pulisic was benched. Not benched, when Pulisic pulled up in the warm-up.
What a bad start for you.
Yeah, awful start. And I had Souček coming in who blanked. But then Mope, who, again, I was kind of gutted when I saw he wasn't in the lineup. And then I had Lamptey come in for his 9 points. So, I think I've actually had a decent spread of points from players. Kane I bought in. Kane and Chilwell, my 2 transfers in. They both got 6 points sort of straight away. Semedo finally got me a return, which was nice, a clean sheet, and looked good. So hopefully hope to see more of that. But of course, the major news was Mr. Jack Grealish. We knew it was coming, didn't we? We knew.
Well, you called it. You actually said, I think when we looked at the fixtures, you said you felt a big score was coming from him. I must admit, I was sceptical, because I just was of the opinion that I've had his big score and perhaps it was a flash in the pan, and I was a little bit worried. I even WhatsApped you and said, Grealish hanging by a thread a little bit, didn't I?
You did. You were already thinking of getting him out. I never lost the faith. I'm happy with that, because I feel like we do this together, and I feel like he was kind of your pick, so I could have been stubborn about it and not got him, but yeah, I went for him, and it's nice to have that reward kind of. I just think he's just such a strong option going forward. I think with the fixtures they've still got and the way he's playing, I think that's my one takeaway from this. I think if you haven't got him, I think you need to be getting him in.
Yeah, because it looks like he's not the Jack Grealish of last season, where he was inconsistent, who went through those lulls. So far, he looks to be in every match looking like he's going to get something, and obviously he is often getting some returns, and he's had 2 big scores already. So, yeah, I mean, you did well to get him in because, like I said, the fact that I had him already, it could be that you were like, oh no, I'm not going to go there. I'll let Mark have him. I know better, but you didn't, and it was a good move, it seems. So, let's see if Jack continues for us. So it's a good game week for you. 72, wasn't it? And I trailed you on 68, but pretty decent. Obviously, I had Jack's return. Salah came in on the captaincy. Reece James, clean sheet at last. It paid off playing him. And he looked good again. He looked good. He got assisted midweek in Europe as well. So he's going to carry on. But Podence was the big thing for me. It started, didn't it, with a Podence return. And then you had Semedo clean sheet that night as well. And I said to you, didn't I? I just had a feeling that this might be our game week.
You did, yeah.
And so it turned out. So very happy with the Podence return. And then obviously... you
didn't play Souček over him.
No, I know
I'm claiming that. I'm claiming those 8 points.
Yeah, you. I mean, thanks for that because I was kind of swapping them in and out. And on the show, you did react very badly to the fact that I had Podence on the bench. And I thought about it a bit more and I changed it. I mean, when I knew Antonio was out as well, I kind of that swung it away from Souček. But sooner or later, Souček's going to return, and it's probably likely to be when he's benched. But I'm going to start him this week, that's for sure. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look. We need your volume up a bit, apparently. So
according to the chat, new mic, so need to get it right.
Right. Okay. So let's look at the great and the good, shall we? Let's see how we're doing in that. I haven't got some ground back. Right. So. Not bad. We're still holding our own in there. I mean, like if you look at it, we're only now a few points behind Villaronca, both of us. So the gap is 7 points. We got to be encouraged by this one. We haven't changed position all season, but we're not.
No, because I was looking at it in the gap now. Although we haven't really moved up much, the gap between us now and Late Riser is quite a lot. So Late Riser, Matthew Jones, and Joe are sort of falling behind a bit, whereas we're entering into the mix to start climbing up the positions a bit, which is nice.
Respectability, I think, is what we're achieving. Although, as I said, it'd be nice to go up a couple of places. So I'm on 388, you're on 381. It's very, very close between us. Sooner or later, you're going to overtake me. Maybe it'll be this game week. It's just at the moment, we just seem to be getting very similar scores and taking it in turns, to kind of struggle at the same time as well. So it's but look at this as well. If you look at the ranks in the great and the good, there's only 4 managers in the top 1 million. And these are all top managers. And it's only Fabio, Magnus Carlsen, Tom Freeman, who had a bad game week with 39 points after having a good one last time out.
Yeah.
And FBL January in the top million. So a lot of managers are struggling to kind of get high ranks at the moment, as we've seen. So it hasn't settled down as yet. So let's look at the top 10K, because I know you like looking at those guys. So I've got on here the template from last week, and also put the template from the week before. So you can see those in red are players that have gone down in ownership. Those in green, players that have gone up. Interesting, we're seeing Alexander Arnold still in the top 10K template, but going down in ownership.
Yeah. So the new template is Martinez and McCarthy. So Ryan's dropped out and McCarthy's in, I guess, because he got some points. And then you've got Sace still there. I think that's probably going to change given the week. You've got Chilwell, who's new in, with Mitchell dropping out. You've got James Justin coming back in. He's flip-flopping in and out of the top 10K template, with Dean dropping out. Obviously because of the red card. And then you've got Alexander Arnold Robertson, so no change there. Then you've got Son, so the midfield is exactly the same. So it's quite a settled template midfield of Son, Salah, Zaha, Grealish and Rodriguez, with Salah, Grealish and Rodriguez, like you say, losing a bit of ownership. And then up front, interestingly enough, you've got Wilson falling out of the top 10K and Patrick Bamford coming in.
Crashing
it's off the back of that hat-trick. Obviously, it moved people up into the top 10K. But it's interesting that now Wilson, with his points, is probably going to propel those people back into the top 10K. So those two are probably going to be switching around each week. So yeah, Kane, Calvert-Lewin and Bamford are the top 10K template. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty template team, isn't it? Which you kind of expect.
Yeah, and Calvert-Lewin losing ownership there. I mean, that's what's interesting. You're starting to see Martinez lose ownership. and Calvert-Lewin as well. These are players that perhaps people are getting nervous about. Certainly Martinez in goal after Villa's last two doesn't look as secure. And we said, didn't we, when we looked at This Much We Know a couple of game weeks ago, I had on there, are Villa the go-to defence this season? And you weren't certain, were you? And so it's turned out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just that. It was the XG was good. The XG prevented was good for them, but the shots in the box wasn't good. And that is when I'm looking at players, that's one of the stats that I always liked as a kind of prediction of goals sort of to be scored. So the player data is good for it. If you look at touches in the box and shots in the box, normally gives a quite a good indication of if that player's going to score soon. But it's the same with teams as well. If you're looking at touches in the box for that team or touches in the box against them, it tends to form a pretty reliable predictor of if they're going to concede. And Villa's were kind of mid-table-ish. So yeah, I'm still not surprised. I still think Martinez is a good option. Going forward, I think there's still some clean sheets there, but it was amazing just how many jumped on him, how much his price went up so quickly off the back of a couple of clean sheets.
Yeah, goalkeepers normally don't do that, do they? They don't normally
I do think now, if I'm looking at 4.8, I mentioned him last week, but I think Mendy, the Chelsea keeper at 5. If I was wildcarding now, looking for a keeper now, he'd be the one I'll go for.
Well, we'll look at our watch list later on. In defence of Villa and Martinez, he didn't really have much chance of any of the Southampton goals, though, did he? I mean, it was extraordinary. Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, Ings' finish, Ward-Prowse's free kicks, extraordinary. Yeah. So I think it's another outlier. It's another match this season that we've got to be careful about, counting too much towards writing off a team or a player, because I do think that performance or the finishing for Southampton was absolutely exceptional. Top 10k transfers. Captains, first of all, 58% of the top 10k went for Kane.
Yeah,
19 for Son.
I think that is so high. I mean, you look at what we were talking about last week, and we were pretty 50-50 on the Kane and Salah divide. I mean, 58% of the top 10k for one player. I was amazed by that. So Son was next with 19%, and then Salah with 15%, and then everyone else. Like, you think of all the options we've got this season. I mean, the next highest was Mane with 1%. So it's really, really. I mean, you think about that, and you going into this West Brom game, Spurs are just going to be off the charts, like captain. Yeah. If they blank and you haven't got them, then good for you. But if they deliver, you are going to be falling behind.
Well, what was Kane's effective ownership last week? 146.7%. It's going to be higher this time round.
Yeah,
I would have thought.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could be one of the highest we've kind of ever seen. I think because of how many people own him. I mean, look at Son. I mean, he's approaching like 60% ownership. If you think that it's going to be split between them, I still think people are going to favour Kane, especially after his goal and assist tonight. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the players transferred in and out, Chilwell, my boy, was the most transferred in player in the top 10k with 867, and then Zaha and Bamford were the next two. And transfers out, Rodriguez, Dean, Castagna. I mean, not surprising, but Alexander Arnold's on there as well.
Yeah, so 237.
He was being shipped. Yeah, he was being shipped by quite a few.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Grealish is down there. So it's almost like I said. Although my reaction at the weekend when Grealish was blanking with 10 minutes to go, was I was nervous. I think we are nervous about Grealish. I think we don't trust him to be the player that he could be. I am confident that he will be a great asset for us this season, but it's only going to take 2 or 3 blanks in a row, and I will start getting nervous again. And I think that's a natural reaction to what we've seen from him before. Great player, delivers now and again, but will go through a spell where he will decline. But I mean, are you convinced that he's not going to do that? What will it take for you to start getting worried about him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural thing when any player for a kind of when a side goes off the ball like that, especially someone like Villa, because I mean, you think maybe they've had their purple patch, and then if they lose that game 3-0 to Southampton, then you think, wow, that's a couple of blanks now for Grealish, a couple of poor performances in Villa in general. So yeah, it's very fickle. You say, oh, he's a season keeper, but it of course it shifts around really easy because it does with everyone. But he's the talisman of the team, and the talisman, I think, buys them a bit of extra time. And we've seen that he's capable of getting these 15 points returned. So it doesn't matter if he gets 5 points for 3 games in a row or 15 points once every 3 games. I think he's a player who I'm going to show patience with.
But I think him and Calvert-Lewin, players who have previously let us down, When they have a couple of blanks, people get nervous quicker.
Has Grealish let us down? He didn't really let us down last season.
I think last season during lockdown, he was far more defensive, and he didn't offer as much in terms of attacking returns. I didn't own him during that spot. I had him briefly last season, but I don't think he's been consistent. It's like Calvert-Lewin as well. Calvert-Lewin had a spell where he was consistent last season, then he had a terrible lockdown, and we're struggling to forget that. And I think when Calvert-Lewin has a run of blanks, there'll be people getting off him early because they'll be like, oh, here he goes, it's Calvert-Lewin of old. And there will be that feeling that we'll go back to that default our mindset about how we look at players like Grealish and Calvert-Lewin. Maybe we've got to get out of that. Maybe we've got to be careful. So, yeah, it's weird, that tweet. I mean, that little WhatsApp message showed you that I'm in that camp, that I'm like the minute. I know. After what he's done for me as well.
Losing the faith so quickly.
I can't do that. Okay, let's look at some team data. So it's interesting. I've got some stuff on here which is the team defence from the season and the team defence from the last 4 game weeks, so we can see recent trends as well as current trends. And what's interesting, what stands out for me is Chelsea now for the season are right up there, right at the top, which is more a massive turnaround. I know that Mendy has obviously been a steady influence. Getting Kepa out of goal is going to help any defence, but I'm surprised to see them now climb to the top. Last 4 game weeks, they're third. So this is sorted by minutes per XG conceded. Last 4 game weeks, it's 117.5 minutes, second only to Wolves on 132 and Arsenal on 146. But for the season, minutes per XG conceded, they're top on 95 minutes. And then Burnley, then Arsenal. So, I mean, you're fully on board with this Chelsea defence.
Yeah, I mean, they were posting good stats with Kepa in goal, and what they did was actually getting a keeper who can save. So I'm not surprised to see it, because they've strengthened with 2 good signings. Chilwell was a massive improvement on Alonso, and Thiago Silva's come in to add that leadership in. I think what's going to be interesting is with Reece James probably back in the team now. You'd say probably back to being first choice, which is good news for you. Whether that continues, because Azpilicueta is obviously the more kind of defensive option and captain and sort of been there, done that. So does James leave them a bit more vulnerable? Will these defensive stats continue? I don't think it will, because I think he's a good defender as well. So I would expect this to continue. Like I say, I think a Chelsea double up with Chilwell and Mendy, or dare I say it, a Chilwell and James double up is probably the best way to tap into it, because I think it's gonna. I think it's what, 5 clean sheets in a row now? Is it
in all competitions? Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. What I find more remarkable in this though is Burnley in second.
Yeah, so minutes per XG conceded 94 minutes. I mean, they played 1 game less than other teams and there's 16 other teams. But yeah, they are difficult to break down, which is what we associate with them. But they've yet to kind of stand out as a source of fantasy points. But it shows that they can be. So we've got to monitor and track what they do. Looking down the list, though, look at last 4 game weeks. Look at the defence that's bottom there, Everton. XG every 50.3 minutes. What a change, because Everton were, after a few game weeks, were right up there as one of the better defences. But last 4, they've dropped right down. So Pickford obviously has been a factor in that, but he's been dropped now. With Coleman out, Dean has been suspended, so there's been big disruption there. Do you think that when we get...
Has he been dropped?
No, Dina was suspended. Coleman was injured.
Pickford,
yeah. Well, Olsen's in goal now. So,
wow.
Yeah. So
I missed that.
Yeah, no. Pickford got dropped last time out. So there's a chance that we'll see Everton climb back up. You'd expect that, wouldn't you? I mean, that slide has been pretty dramatic.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think it just shows a lot that they're not a team that can afford to have injuries to key personnel and be expected to keep delivering how they were.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it's not entirely surprising, because if you look at their squad last season, even with Ancelotti, you still wouldn't back them to keep a lot of clean sheets and to win the majority of their games. With their first 11 as strong as they are, you would. But as soon as you take Dean, Richarlison, Rodriguez with an injury, and you start looking, you start wondering where. I mean, Coleman as well is such an important player for them.
It seems so.
Yeah, I mean, that is an outrageous drop though to be bottom of that list.
Yeah, I mean, you can see as well, like Villa down there on 65 minutes per XG conceded. They, again, like Everton, were right up there at the start of the season. So Villa have now slipped over the season down to 75.8, which puts them just below mid-table for their defence.
Yeah.
So again, it was too early to judge their defence on the first 3 or 4 games, and now it's starting to level out, and they're basically where we'd expect them to see, mid-table or just below. So it'd be interesting to track how this goes. But Chelsea's rise is something we can't ignore, and I think, like you say, I mean, I've got Reece James at the moment. Chilwell, as we'll see when we look at the data, is also an outstanding prospect and someone you've got in. Most transferred in last week. It's difficult to deny him, isn't it, really, based on this evidence? Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, when you watch them play and you look just how advanced both of them are and how the kind of wingers are tucking in to give the fullbacks even more license to get forward. I mean, Chilwell and Reece James's heat maps in those games was outrageous. I mean, Chilwell was unlucky to only get 6 points in that game. He was, playing as like a striker, like Alonso used to do as a wing back at times. He's so advanced. So it really is the perfect balance of keep getting clean sheets and getting those consistent sixes, and then having the chance for attacking returns. And I just think both of them are strong. James, I've always said, if James can get nailed down that right back slot, at 5 million, he's one of the best value picks in the game. It's just you've always got that threat of Azpilicueta.
I mean, what's beautiful with James is like people aren't getting him in because they're worried about that. But if he keeps playing, he's going to do well for me. So I've got to start him and hope that Lampard picks him. And I think in his favour, he's suspended for England, so he's going to get a break. And although he did play in Europe, I do think he's in the box seat to start again at the weekend. So I think I've got to go for it and hope for the best, and or hope he doesn't come on.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Thiago. If it depends what Lampard does with Thiago and how much he manages his minutes. Because if he misses out, I think that massively increases the chance of James missing out as well. Because he'll put Azpilicueta in for the kind of
for seniority.
So yeah, that's the thing. I think you're kind of relying on 2 players.
So I was surprised for midweek because Lampard played both James and Thiago, and I was like, does that mean that they're both not going to play at the weekend? Because like you said, I'm linking those two as well. I think they are cuffed together, as in if Thiago plays, James starts as well. And now Thiago, I mean, he was subbed off. I think he got 70 minutes, so that suggested he subbed him off to save him for the weekend. So I'm kind of clutching at that straw, but yeah,
I wouldn't want James instead of Chilwell.
No,
but I think James alongside Chilwell is good.
Well, funny you should say that. Anyway, let's look at the attack. Liverpool top over the last 4 game weeks and top overall for the season for minutes per XG, 41.5 over the season, and in the last 4 game weeks, 45.5. So Liverpool's still the go-to attack, it seems. But Leeds have risen right up there, second over the last 4 game weeks to Liverpool. It's hard to deny that, isn't it? I mean, we wondered what kind of team Leeds are going to be. They're an attacking team. Yeah.
And it was a shame that didn't really see the best of them against Leicester. It's kind of the first game where they've played a game and the other team has kind of quite taken control and sort of, made them look a bit ordinary, because in other games they've been so full of energy and so full of life, and Leicester kind of just put them to the sword, which neither of us really expected to see. So hopefully that won't continue, because I want to see Leeds, continue to do. But again, it's the fullbacks as well, isn't it? I mean, Eiling, whenever I see him play, I just think this is a guy who's capable of getting a haul. Probably never when I play him. He'll definitely come when he's on my bench. But I just sense that something's coming, because he just looks so threatening every time I see him. But then obviously it was Dallas, that left back, who got the goal. And I think you can make a really good case for having either of them, like, going forward, just because of how attacking they are.
Well, in a minute, I'll show you some data which kind of suggests which is the better of the two there.
It's the year
Dallas
of
ahead at the moment.
And Vestergaard.
Which is, Vestergaard. Yeah, well, Zuma and Vestergaard, the goal scoring centre-back. Yeah. So also want to hear what's interesting is Man City are creeping up. We're waiting for Man City to wake up, right? Because we're looking at the head of the fixtures and we're going, right, game weeks 9 or 10, we're going to get on City. Yeah. And right now, if you look at minutes per chance last 4 game weeks, City are top, 5.7 minutes per chance. And over the season now, they're on 5.9, which is second only to Liverpool. So we're starting to see order restored, aren't we, when it comes to the attacks, it seems. It's at the moment, the quality of chance that Man City are creating isn't up there. So minutes per big chance, they're on 51.6, whereas Liverpool on 26.5 over the season. So at the moment, City just aren't creating high quality chances, but they are creating chances. So sooner or later, you think that's going to click. How are you feeling about City at the moment?
Yeah, it's not really surprising again because I mean they've had the injury to De Bruyne, the massive most creative player in the league. They've had Sterling up front, so they lose quite a lot of that. What he brings to the left side, and then now they've been sort of experimenting with playing Ferran Torres up front, which has actually been working quite well.
He's done all right, hasn't he?
He's been good, yeah, absolutely. But now they've got Jesus back. Played some minutes off the bench in the Champions League. I think he scored as well, which is good. So now they've got the kind of the focal point back. Sterling can go back onto the left. They've got options off the bench again. De Bruyne's back, so everything's pointing to good things. I mean, I was focusing on getting a United player in next week. I think I might just halt that for a bit because I mean, game week 9. I mean, City have got Spurs away, which. Tough game, but you still fancy Spurs City to get a couple in that. But then I mean Burnley and Fulham at home. I know Burnley are doing well on the defensive stats, but we've got to have a City player in place for those.
Well, let's have a look at the ticker while we're talking about it because City for attack are ranked 4th on the ticker for the next 6 game weeks. So like you say, they got Liverpool this weekend, obviously Spurs away, but then it's Burnley, Fulham at home, United away, West Brom at home. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at game week 10 and getting on board.
Yep.
United as well, they swing around 9 and 10. They got West Brom at home in game week 9, Southampton away game week 10, West Ham away 11. Then it's City at home and Sheffield United away. So it's not as good as City's run. And the thing is with United, look at the uncertainty and they're not settled, are they? There's trouble, right? So
no.
I'm not so keen on United, but how big are you going to go on City? I mean, you're looking at game week 10 presumably to invest, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think De Bruyne is just coming in one way or the other. I think it is quite close between him and Sterling. I think they're both going to go on and have pretty good seasons, but the penalties with De Bruyne and just in general, he's just class, isn't he? So I think De Bruyne will be coming back in. I mean, Jesus is an option as well if Aguero is going to be out for a while at 9.3. I think he's quite an easy Kane swap. I mean, you talk about fixture swings. I mean, Spurs' fixtures are just absolutely crazy, and I am thinking about ditching both Son and Kane.
See, you can't wait to get off them, can you? You can't wait.
I can't wait. I don't like owning a 60% owned player in Son. And I know it is something that could potentially bite me, but it seems like a good opportunity to try and. I mean, if I move him onto De Bruyne, and I move Kane onto Jesus, then I'm basically switching my 2 Spurs with awful fixtures for 2 City with great fixtures. So I'm hoping that. I mean, it's a risk because of the ownership, but in general, if you ask me if I'd rather have 2 Spurs or 2 City for those games, I'd pick City every time. So I don't want to build my team around fear of a player hauling. I want to build it around potential and players are actually going to get me points. So that's the plan. Whether I do lose both of them, it remains to be seen. I'm not going to commit to that yet. I think Son would be the more likely one that I'd keep. If I did keep Son, then I'd move Kane to De Bruyne and switch to 5 in midfield.
So yeah, but I mean the issue is you've got to make more than one transfer to do that. Whereas Son's a quick switch. You've got
well, I could do Kane and Souček to your mate Brewster and De Bruyne.
Okay, so you make the 2 transfers like that.
Yeah.
Slowly coming round to my team, aren't you? Slowly but surely admitting I was right all along, and that's the worst way. Talking of De Bruyne, go on.
Sorry, just one other thing. Just the other player that I like the look of could be Diaz as well. 5.5.
But I might be able to change your mind on that.
Because we're going to look at be Cancelo.
Yeah, we're going to look at Mr. Cancelo. So we're going to start looking at the creative data. We've talked about De Bruyne, and he features in this. What we're looking at here is chances created over the season so far, and the top 20 players, minutes per chances created from open play. So this is not set pieces. And yeah, Mr. Cancelo there is in 270 minutes so far has created a chance every 30 minutes. And when you look at this and see De Bruyne is just above him on 25.5, that's incredible. I mean, we've got Fredericks of West Ham out in front, but he's only played 229 minutes, so that's an outlier based on the first few games. So De Bruyne effectively is the top creator in terms of minutes per chance, but he's only just ahead of Cancelo, his teammate. You're not buying this Cancelo business, are you? I can tell.
I'm not buying it. I don't want to be that guy that's basing it all on what I thought of him last season, because players are capable of turning it around, believe it or not. So I don't want to completely write him off. And 5.4 for someone like him is going to be a good value. I mean, especially because I had a policy at the start of the season which was I don't want to spend more than 5 billion on centre backs. So if I've got the opportunity to get in a fullback at 5.4, 5.5, then I'm definitely going to look into it. I just worry about him because I just haven't been that impressed with him in the past. So I think, although I'm trying not to completely focus on that, I think maybe he has turned a corner. I do worry that maybe he's just in a good vein of form and it could all kind of crumble down. I mean, there's Ake, who is going to surely have to play at some point. I know he's a centre back, but could in theory play on the left. You got Zinchenko as well. I mean, is Mendy's injured again? I'm guessing.
I think it's a Mendy. Is like, what's his recovery like, and how quickly does he get considered? I mean, the thing is, I think this is a big week for Cancelo because he's up against Liverpool and he's up against Salah and Trent on that side. Does Pep keep faith in him in that game, or does he put Ake out there? Or I don't know. So this is actually, we're going to learn a bit more about where Cancelo sits in Pep's mind when we go into the Liverpool game. So I don't think I'm looking at him yet, but you can't ignore that. I mean, if there's a fullback available who's creating chances at that level of frequency in a team which is potentially the most attacking team in the league eventually, we've got to take notice.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know. I'm looking down the list. I mean, Reguilón is a chance from open play every 45 minutes. Reguilón is a player we've got to take note of as well. We know all about his attacking prowess, and so far, in 270 minutes, he's right up there. But as you look further, so in the second table, I've got notable names from fullbacks, and you see Anthony Robinson there for Fulham, but Reece James is on a chance from open play every 64.7 minutes, which doesn't sound great. But when you look that he's ahead of Robertson of Liverpool on 78.8 and Alexander-Arnold 89.9. So Reece James is currently creating chances from open play at a quicker rate than both the Liverpool fullbacks.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the danger is, like, say you've got Mitchell and you've got Cancelo and Reece James, you run the risk of going into a game with two defenders.
Yeah.
And, we know, like Jack Barwell says in the chat, if Cancelo plays the next two, then I think it has to be him over Diaz for Gameweek 10. And I think it is, because I think if you do start seeing those consecutive starts for him, then he's a great option. If we do see a random Zinchenko coming in or Ake out to the left, then I think it does kill him as an option, because we're much more likely to see rotation with Pep around there than we probably will see with Reece James now Thiago's back. But yeah, I mean, if he starts the next two, then I think he's definitely one of the stronger players to get in for that run.
Yeah, so leading into Game Week 10, we'll know a bit more about Cancelo. Looking down the list here, so you've got Dina on there, a chance from open play every 87 minutes. Again, it compares well. It's better than Alexander-Arnold. So I'm surprised how Alexander-Arnold fared on this table, because, Creswell's there, 90 minutes, a chance. Chilwell, a chance every 90 minutes. So they're right up there with Alex. So this is what I'm saying about when we're looking at Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, we are kind of looking at their what they returned last season. But when you put it in context of where they sit this season, there are other fullbacks far cheaper who are offering the chance creation to match them. Obviously, this is from open play, and Alexander-Arnold has set pieces as well. But if Cancelo is creating a chance from open play every 30 minutes, if he keeps that up, you can't deny that. And looking down the list as what's interesting, so we're talking about Ayling and Dallas. Aylin's creating a chance every 78 minutes from open play. Dallas is right down there on 207. So immediately that indicator says that Ayling is, the eye test is correct. Ayling is actually busier, getting forward more, creating more. And one or two names down there, we looked at James Justin and Walker Peters. A lot of people saying Walker Peters is an attacking fullback. I think when we'll see across these tables, he's nowhere near as attacking in terms of end product as we'd think. He's creating a chance every 210 minutes, which is not great. And that surprised me, because to me, when you watch Southampton play, he gets forward a lot, but clearly there's the end product's not there, is it?
No. He's a funny one, isn't he? Because, I mean, he in the first few games of the season, I was watching Southampton and they, pushing so high with the fullbacks, but particularly him. I was owning him. I was thinking, actually, he looks really good, but he does look like he has come back a bit now, and he isn't attacking as much. I mean, looking at this table, what I like is that it kind of not completely, but there is a correlation between the price you pay and the quality that you get. Eiling, I think, is the standout there because he's the 4.5, 4.6 now, is he? Or still 4.5 option, who is up there with your Robertsons, your Jameses, your Deans, your Alexander-Arnold, your Chilwells. So yeah, it's really encouraging to see him so far up there. I mean, Creswell, I really like the look of as well. I mean, I can't believe that he's creating so many chances.
Well, that's some open play
back position.
But that's some open play as well. So if you put in set pieces, Creswell, like Alexander-Arnold, would leap up because obviously they're taking free kicks as well. Same applies to Dina, of course. But I just wanted to look at open play because I wanted to see, whether Alexander-Arnold is one of the top fullbacks for chance creation. And based on this, yes, he is up there, but he's not as high as Reece James. He's not as high as Dina or Aiden even. So it just shows you. Let's look at crosses.
Makes me
it does.
Vindicated that I've got
It's reassuring. Exactly. This is what this is what tonight is about. It's about looking at this creative stats and seeing how the Liverpool pair compare. So crosses now. And Reece James again, second on this list. This is overall all positions. Reece James is putting in a cross from open play every 13.3 minutes. I think it's Teta of Fulham is top, but he's only played 129 minutes. Reece James has got 453 minutes and he's putting across every 13 of those from open play. That's at a quicker rate than Alexander-Arnold, who's down there on 17 minutes, and Robertson at 19.1. And again, that's surprising. And Dina is surpassing Alexander-Arnold and Robertson for the rate of open play crosses.
Stats, Mark.
Exactly, I did say.
Some good stats, I have to say.
So, again, this is open play, but it is surprising, isn't it? Because you watch Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, and the impression is they're throwing in crosses all the time. And they are, but not as quickly or not at a rate that matches Dina and James from open play. So
maybe we want Reece James now.
Yeah, it is interesting. And so let's look at the table below, which is all the other fullbacks. And again, look at Walker Peters right down there at the bottom. An open play cross every 105 minutes. So, nowhere near in comparison to the other names that, like Lamptey, who's another name. When we put Lamptey and Walker Peters, you think, well, there's not too much in it. Lamptey, the eye test shows he is better attacking wise, and these numbers back it up, putting in a cross every 33 minutes compared to Walker Peters on 105. Yeah,
and a good name there as well is Tierney, because we've seen Arsenal. I think they were second on the defensive stats.
They were, yeah.
And then you've got Tierney there with a lot of minutes played, and he's been at centre back. Is he for a few games in the back?
Yeah, he played left centre back for a while
at
the start.
So you got to think now if he does move over to the left back and plays them more, he's going to see even more crosses too. Arsenal's fixtures are looking a bit better, and they look defensive. So I think with him and James, you've got two sort of quite differential picks who look set to go on a bit of a run.
Yeah, so he's putting in the cross every 25 minutes. And Bellerin, I've seen Bellerin get a bit of traffic this week. A lot of people talking about him. He's cheaper.
As well.
He's cheaper, but he's putting in a cross every 45 minutes. So far slower than Tierney. So you get what you pay for there as well. And then again, look at the Alien-Dallas comparison. Alien across from open play every 31 minutes. Dallas every 51. Again, Alien comes out on top. So Dallas might have got the goal, but long term, Alien looks the right pick.
This bodes well for your Souček man as well, with Kufal, Masuaku and Creswell all featuring in the top 5 for the amount of crosses they're putting in.
That's top 5 within the. I mean, that's not. They're outside the top 20, but within our sample of defenders, they're in the top 5.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we know West Ham are full of crosses,
but they're still high.
Right up there, absolutely. Now let's look at this stat, which is another really nice one. Now this is passes into the box. So this is passes and crosses, right? And this is where Alexander-Arnold suddenly justifies all the hype. Because
don't say that.
other than Hurahan, who has only played 138 minutes, no player this season has put the ball into the box at a faster rate than Alexander-Arnold. He's put in a pass or a cross every 7.2 minutes. Which, De Bruyne is on 7.5. You've got Fernandes on 8.3. Westwood, who fares quite well. And I checked last season data, and Westwood did well last season as well. So it shows you, Westwood's not an FPL asset, so we shouldn't read too much into this data. But it is useful when comparing other fullbacks to the Liverpool pair. But clearly here, the Liverpool pair, when it comes to feeding people in the box, are right up there. Robertson every 10 minutes. But James is there again, 10.8.
Yeah,
just behind the Liverpool pair. And it's a really interesting stat because I had a look at Alexander-Arnold last season, and he put in a pass or cross every 6.2 minutes last season. So he has actually regressed. So it has gone down. Alexander-Arnold put in the most passes and crosses of any player last season into the box, but he did it at a rate of every 6.2 minutes, whereas this season it's 7.2. Robertson has increased, which that's what we've seen. We've backed this up. He's putting in a cross or pass every 10 minutes this season. It was 12.6 last season. So it has switched. It's less uneven, as in Robertson is doing more in terms of putting the ball into the box. But is it enough to hold on to them?
But apart from Hurahan, who is saying kind of less minutes, so it's a bit of an outlier, Alexander-Arnold again is putting in the most of all players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more than De Bruyne and Fernandes.
Yeah, that's interesting. If only they had Benteke.
Yeah, to feed. But I mean, looking at the names below, like look at Dina, look at James, look at Chilwell. James on 10.8, Dina on 11.3, Chilwell 11.6. They're not far behind the Liverpool pair, and yet they're far cheaper. So to me, this point about where actually you can spend less and get players that are almost the equivalent based on this season's data, it rings true to an extent. And I think James, Dina and Chilwell are players that can do that.
I think Gargamel in the chat is just said exactly what I was thinking. So attacking points is all good, but clean sheets is the bread and butter. Yeah. And I think that is the thing. That's what I like about Chilwell and James, is that because we see these defensive stats, we think their kind of floor, if you're doing the floor and ceiling analogy, their floor is almost 6 at the moment because they're just so likely to keep the clean sheets. And their ceiling is so high because of how much they're attacking. Whereas it does feel that with Trent and Robertson, you're paying more and you've got that potential for the 1 and 2 points a lot more because of the Van Dijk leaving, and because I think they've conceded the most goals from the Premier League team since they won the league, which is an absolutely outrageous stat when you think about how good they've been defensively. So these stats are good, and it shows how attacking they still are. But the double ups off, it's got to be. I just think it's too much money to be spending on both of them. I do still think keeping one of them is a completely valid thing, because I think there are still going to be some clean sheets. They are still going to get attacking returns. I don't think it's completely, if you've got Trent and you've got James and Chilwell, then you've got 3 good players. And okay, if you need the money, you can pull some money out of them possibly and go for one of the options we talked about. But I don't think it's I think if I had one of them and I had Chilwell, for example, I don't think I'd be going mad to lose them, even with all the other options. But at the same time, I just don't think they're going to get anywhere near what they got last season.
I don't know. I listened to Andy this week. He did a video on this, and it was interesting. He said, I think in their first 13 games, they only had 2 clean sheets last year. And obviously, they ended up on 200 points.
Yeah, but they had Van Dijk.
I know. But this exercise was about I looked at the creative data, the attacking points, because for me, that is still why we're holding them or considering holding them, because we're worried that if we let them go, they're going to explode attacking points. So I wanted to look at whether any of the other fullbacks that we've looked at or we're looking at, like Chilwell, can get near to them. And I think what I've discovered is, yes, they do get near to them. Yeah, they're not quite at that level, but they're not far off. And when you relative to their price, I think they're better value based on what we're seeing. Yeah, when you factor in the clean sheets as well, and the fact that Chelsea are now the top defence, even more so. As we work our way down the list here, again, Walker-Peters, look, a pass or cross into the box every 63 minutes. That is 6 times slower than Reece James, which is surprising. I thought he would do far better, but you look up the list, Lamptey's doing all right. Every 22 minutes he's putting a pass or cross. Justin, 26.3. So you're getting good value out of those guys, but less so out of Walker-Peters. And again, you look at Ayling, cross or pass into the box every 19 minutes. Dallas is 29.6. So again, it's pointing to Ayling, this data. So he does look at bargain. Target comes out well here. Pass or cross every 18 minutes. Pretty decent for a 4.5 defender. So he's another one to consider. But you just think Ayling and Leeds are going to get more because stronger attacking team at the moment, it would seem. So an interesting study. I hope that that shows you that I think we can move off Alexander-Arnold and Robertson and be reassured there are attacking potential elsewhere. Plus, of course, at the moment, Liverpool's defence doesn't offer the clean sheets that perhaps Chelsea does as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very nice.
Okay, let's look at our watch list with that in mind. And having said all that, you've put Alexander-Arnold on your watch list.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I took him out last week So I still want to keep an eye on him, because if Liverpool do start keeping the clean sheets again, he's not someone who I think I'm just going to write off this season and never go back to him. I think his price is now 7.4, probably might go down to 7.3. So it's still a good price for him. I mean, you think about how many points is he going to get. I don't think he's going to hit 200, but he could in theory still hit 150, 160 points. I mean, you're looking at someone like Grealish or or like Zaha or 7 million. If they got 150, 160 points, you'd probably be quite happy with that. So if that is the kind of minimum that we think he's going to get, then it's still someone who we can consider. I just think it doesn't have to be. I don't have to have Trent all season or none of the season. I'm happy to kind of move for him when I start seeing Liverpool being a bit more defensively resilient in the league and him starting to actually get some returns.
Yeah, that's it. They're not at the start of the season. We were like, oh, they're so cheap, season keepers straight in, and I think we just got to get used to the fact that they're not season keepers, and we just got a time when we look at them again. And I've got to say, out of the two, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, there's been a shift now towards Alexander-Arnold for me, based on what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 games. He has looked lackadaisical. He has looked rather sluggish, but he's coming out of it a bit more. And the trend is going more towards him in terms of the volume of crosses. And he's always got the direct free kicks as well. So I'm on Alex. If I'm going to keep one, it will be Trent, I think. But then I was reading Simon March's article tonight on endowment bias, which is like it's all about where you identify yourself to a particular player, or you have a player that actually you think represents you. And I think Trent is that for me. That's what I've got to be careful of because of that. I go back to that 2016 Scoutcast where I got him for 4.5 billion, and no one, he hadn't really broken through at that point. So I almost look at him as my player, don't I? So I'm aware of that. I've got to be careful not to hold on to him for too long, and some would say I have already. But I'm
the same. I mean, he encapsulates everything I want from a defender. I've always liked defenders who keep clean sheets and score goals. That's why I always liked the wing backs. And having Trent was amazing because it was just a position you could just leave and not worry about. You knew he was gonna trigger. I mean, last season I even captained him a few times, and every time I captained him, he did well. So I captained him in double game week over Mane and Salah. Obviously, he outperformed Mane, but it wasn't really fair. I kind of matched Salah in that, so did fine. I think I captained him another game as well, and he got a clean sheet and an assist in that. So, yeah, he was a great option because he was one of the only defenders who I've ever captained and thought I can actually get. This isn't just a completely ridiculous, but apart from maybe Shane Duffy, we were unlucky with that.
You captained Duffy? Oh, was that in a double game week?
Yeah. Did you not? Everyone did.
I did. No, I think maybe I did. Maybe that slipped my memory for some reason. Maybe I blanked that out on purpose. I mean, Leighton Baines was the only defender I've captained, I think, back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Duffy had Cardiff and was it Huddersfield?
Did he get a return? Did he get any attacking?
No, they lost like 4-0 in like both games, and he got like 1 point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think that.
Triple captain Duffy, a few people in the chat.
Really? Was it triple captain? Oh, my word. What happened there? I remember triple captain Andy Carroll. I thought that was bad enough. I mean, Trent's just a play. I mean, the thing as well, when Liverpool win a free kick around the box, it's just that lovely feeling you get was, hello, Trent could have this.
Yeah.
And when you've got a defender who can do that, and there's Dina takes the free kicks now and again, Reece James does now and again, but not Alexander-Arnold. He's straight on there. And that's the thing that makes it so hard to get rid of him, because you just think that could happen in any game. And it just plays on your mind, doesn't it? Whereas Robertson, he's playing well. He's been outstanding. The numbers have shown he has improved, even on last season, but he's not got the same threat, I don't think. And that's why
Trent. I think Trent and Alonso and probably Baines back in the day were the only defenders who I thought I wouldn't be surprised if they got 20 points this week against anyone, because they could easily get 2. I mean, we saw Dean a couple of seasons ago, I think, scored 2 free kicks in a game
against Burnley. Yeah,
against Burnley. I benched him for that game. That was fun. With Trent, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he went to City and got
don't say that.
Points. I mean, it would surprise me more this season, but it would maybe not so much last season. But yeah, that's what you get. But I mean, Luke said, I think Luke did quite a nice post on Twitter the other day saying, how many 2s do you hold on for Trent for? And then he gets 20 points. And then you're celebrating, thinking, I've got this massive haul from Trent. But actually, you've lost, suddenly, you've had him for 10 weeks and you've got 2 points every week. So it kind of, it balances out. But I mean, that, like I was saying about can't remember who it was, about Grealish. You know, if you do hold Trent for a few weeks, and then you need to get that monster haul if he's getting the blanks each week to kind of justify it. So I can see why people are keeping faith of him. I can see, you know, he's becoming more of a differential in a way. He's still in the template top 10k team, isn't he? I don't think he's got much longer left in that if he keeps the way he is. So, you know, when his ownership drops quite low and he becomes differential, then he might be an exciting one. But yeah,
and this is the week, if you're going to get rid of him, makes it easier because they're playing City, of course. So you know that's why I'm looking at thinking, oh, this maybe has to be the week, or it's never going to happen. Yeah. No changes in the watch list for me in defence. Going into midfield, I put Ziyech in there. You've already got him in there. I mean, impressed with his debut at Burnley? We got to be, haven't we?
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed that he did well, because when I saw Pulisic was out, and you know, with a potential hamstring injury, straight away I thought, oh, it's going to be a nice easy move to Ziyech. I hope he kind of looks good in this game, but stays relatively quiet FPL wise. And he didn't. He got 15 points, 14 points. Looked really good. I mean, his stats aren't incredible when I looked at them. You know, things like touching the box and shots and stuff, they weren't huge. But he looks the kind of player he's just intelligent. The way he drifts inside, receives the ball. You know, he can shoot from range. He's so creative. He can pick a pass. He's the kind of player who, I do think his stats don't need to be like really like Grealish level, because of just his ability and his quality to be able to pick a shot or pick a pass. So yeah, I really like the look of him. He was 7.9 going into that game as well, which is just frankly such a low price for him. He's up to 8 now. I've got Pulisic. I'm waiting to hear from Lampard. I don't really know what to do with Pulisic. I don't really want to lose him. And we've got the international break coming, so he's got a bit of a chance to rest. But I actually feel now that Werner is competition for him on the left, because he can manage Pulisic a bit more. He knows he can play Werner on the left, and he can do quite well. And they're looking good when they play Abraham up front, and they've got sort of a focal point and you know, someone up there to kind of play off. So I'm more worried about Pulisic now, and I am thinking about this week moving on to Ziyech, because he just hasn't really got the competition. And I like the fact that when Reece James bombs past him, he moves into the kind of central areas and looks to make things happen. So that's what I'm considering this week, actually.
Yeah, it works well because the fullbacks do overlap, provide the width, and then you've got Werner or Pulisic tucking in with Ziyech on the other side as well. And you think that's how it's going to be now. The system's there, and Lampard stumbled upon it. Or maybe that's been a bit harsh.
Yeah, a bit harsh.
But okay, another player that we've got to talk about is Jota. You know, we're going to be reluctant.
Both our watch list, isn't he?
Yeah, but we have to put him in there, and we've got to keep an eye on this situation. What do you make of it? Far too early, do you think?
It's a really tricky question, because Firmino is he's almost a kind of divisive player, isn't he? Because Liverpool fans love him, obviously. You know, they've been fairly successful with him, you know, playing up front. You know, they've done all right. No, they've done amazing. I mean, he's the kind of player who, fantasy-wise, pretty much the main striker of Liverpool is just dead to us as an option because of the way he plays and how deep he plays. The fact he hasn't scored a goal at home for 8 years or whatever it is. And then you look at Jota and what he brings, and you know, they play him up front, and he's scoring hat tricks in Champions League. He scored 2 goals in three goals, is it, in his last 3 home matches. So he's the complete opposite in a way of Firmino. He scores at home for fun, doesn't need many chances to do it. And he's 6.4 million midfield playing up front for the most attacking team in the league.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's crazy to think about. When you think about someone like Phil Foden, who's 6.6, similar kind of player, you think. I mean, you know, he's been benched the last 2 games, but I can see why people want to keep the faith in him, because when he does play, you've got to think that he is gonna deliver. And I think Jota at the moment falls into that bracket of, he's a player who I wouldn't be surprised to see getting 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but he can deliver in those. And when he does start, you've got an absolutely great value pick. I don't want him because of the rotation, and because I still don't think he is in Liverpool's strongest team, which is always to me the factor. Is this player part of what I think is Liverpool's strongest lineup? And I still think Firmino is their main striker, because he unlocks Mane and Salah so well. And Jota is so good as an impact player. So I'm looking at him, I'm monitoring him. I'm thinking, you know, if he does starting over Firmino, then I'm going to move for him pretty quickly. But at the moment, I'm not going to go near him.
It's an interesting development, though, isn't it? Because if Jota does keep Firmino out then that's going to change a lot in our season, because suddenly we've got a potential, heavy hitter asset there available for 6.5 million. Which, we looked at Foden and thought he could turn into that, but that was a bit of a long shot. Whereas Jota is a finisher, he's a goal scorer, that's for sure. And in that Liverpool team, he's going to keep on scoring goals while he's in it. So he is that. Firmino's not that. Firmino's a much more supportive player. He's a cog in the machine kind of thing. I think Firmino plays at City though, doesn't he? That's the thing. I think Jota's gone up in price. He's had a lot of buys this week, but I can't see Firmino not starting at City. That's the thing.
No, because he's just so important. Like if you ignore his fantasy, for fantasy football, we always look at touching the pony area, shots, expected goals, all this stuff. But when you look at Firmino's like actual running stats and his tackling stats and everything, they're like top of everything. Yeah. Like he brings so much to Liverpool. You can't deny. You only have to watch them to see how much he brings. He's absolutely useless for us as fantasy managers, but he's the kind of player that every manager would dream of having in his side. And the thing with Jota, you talk about him being a goal scorer. He's never hit double digits. He's had 2 seasons at Wolves. He's got 9 in his first season, 7 in his second. Always, obviously a talented player, but he's on a good run at the moment. Is that going to carry on with reduced minutes? I'm just not convinced that I just can't see him like leading the line for Liverpool like every week.
Yeah, I think if he was rotating with Mane and Salah, that would be the concern. Later in the season, that could be a factor. That is a problem because, Origi was never really that player. He never really looked like he offered Klopp that option to rest Salah and Mane, whereas Jota could be. And at the moment, it's Firmino who's in the firing line, it seems. He's the one that's coming out of the team if Jota starts. But I worry later in the season when Salah and Mane have got an easy fixture and we're looking at the captaincy and Jota's there the rest, and depend on where Liverpool get in the Champions League, but you've got to think they're going to go far. So Jota at the moment looks like he could turn into a gift, but I think actually in the later in the season he could be a real problem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the other problem is, Liverpool's attacking stats are still like top with Firmino playing. Like attacking isn't really their issue. Like it's not like Jota is coming in to fill in a massive like void of goals. He's scoring and he's doing well, obviously, but he's not like. They don't need a solution to not scoring goals all of a sudden. Their problems are still in defence. And Firmino does offer them a lot in terms of winning the ball back and the pressing game. So I just can't see him suddenly being taken out of the team to kind of get Jota in when just given all he brings. So, yeah, I do think this is one of those bandwagons that's going to bite people a bit.
Yep, fair enough, and it could be very, very soon with Firmino recalled. And up front, we've got a lot of changes here. I've put Werner back in because I just think, he's obviously scoring goals again. He's on penalties. That's a big development. Yeah. I think he's going to keep them. It looks that way because it's helping his confidence. The big thing for Werner is he's got to get back into the middle because I think Pulisic is going to, we don't want rotation with him. So I think he'll end up there, but there is a risk now that Abraham, Werner and Pulisic could be in kind of rotation cycle. So we just got to keep an eye on that. You've had Vardy. You put him in last week. I put him in this week because he's got kind fixtures coming up. If we just bring the ticker up again, Leicester's run very soon in Gameweek 10. They've got Fulham at home, Sheffield United away in 11, Brighton at home in 12 and Everton at home in 13. And that are games, if you're looking at getting off Kane, Vardy is someone to look at. Got to be. You talked about Jesus. Are you looking at Vardy as well?
Yeah, I didn't want Kane. I didn't want Kane, and Vardy was the next person who I was thinking if we'd done a late night stream,
if
I was
only
feeling a bit ballsy and had a few beers, then I might have gone for Vardy, but it wasn't to be. I went for boring old Kane. I think Vardy he's just going to continue to score points. You talk about stats. All this time we spend on stats, just meaningless with it.
Yeah,
because
it is.
He just his returns. He's got like absolutely dreadful stats this season, but he's had 3 double-digit returns and has got 7 goals in 7 weeks. And he's missed a game. You look at stats, all you need is that really to see.
Well, he almost does his best work without the ball, and that's like drawing fouls and hustling defenders so they make mistakes. And then when they do, he converts the penalties or takes the chances.
Yeah.
But he doesn't generate high numbers. He doesn't have lots of shots on target.
And I think one of the reasons we were worried about him when we talked about last week was Leicester in general just not looking that good. I mean, they've had that win against Leeds is massive. I mean, 4-1 away at Leeds with the way they've been playing is huge. I mean, Wolves and Liverpool is a pretty rough next two, so I wouldn't be jumping on him then. But then, I mean, Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton, 3 really good games. You'd expect Vardy to do well in all 3 of those games.
The thing is with Vardy, though, you kind of back him against the teams that come at Leicester and leave space behind, but teams that don't, like you got to think when he plays Fulham aren't going to turn up and not defend deep and deny him space. I mean, that's what most managers, when they're up against Vardy, would do. I mean, obviously Bielsa is an attacking manager and he wouldn't ever do that. He sticks to his principles, so that's why Vardy exposed that. But I don't think there's many teams like Leeds who are going to go to Leicester and give Vardy the space. So again, he's one of those players where you look at fixtures, he's quite hard to predict when he's going to return. He was a flat track bully last season, though. And, you know, he has turned into a flat track bully as of last season. Before that, he was better against the teams that actually attacked Leicester. I find him hard to read. He's really frustrating, Vardy, because he seems to change. He seems to shapeshift. And so you think you know him, but you haven't got data you can go on. And at the moment, I don't know how to read him in terms of opposition either. So he's a problem for me. Don't like him.
Yeah. I mean, I love him. And, you know, as someone's just said in the chat now, I mean, he goes at GW7 Team Az, whatever it is. Volley goes on runs, so we see it like every season. He ends up with like 8 or 9 like games where he scored like a brace or a goal in every game. So if you're thinking that this is going to be the run that Vardy's going to go on, then now's the time to get him in. I think the thing for me with Vardy, and I think it's actually quite, I don't think you have to stress too much. I think if you like the look of Leicester, if you think Leicester are going to finish top 6 this season, then I think Vardy is a great option to bring in, because if they get top 6, he's going to be golden boot chasing again, 20 plus goals, central to all their main things they do, which are good. And you just get him in, you just keep him, especially when he's on a run like this. If you think, based on what we've seen, Leicester are going to be a bit, one great week, one bad week, one great week, they'll probably finish kind of more mid-table, then he's a no-go, because you're paying 10 million for a mid-price, for a mid-table striker. So I think it's based on that. I think if you're looking at moving Kane on, after their fixtures turn, I think Vardy's a really nice player to go for, because he seems quite safe and he's going to keep delivering. It just depends on what you think of Leicester.
Yeah, I did kind of write Leicester off at Leeds. I thought Leeds would do it.
You did, yeah.
I really did. I thought that. So they really surprised me. The performance surprised me. Maybe it shouldn't have done. Maybe I should have spotted the fact that tactically Leicester were going to expose Leeds because Bielsa would attack them, and Vardy just murdered them, didn't he? And Maddison's back now as well. And again, Leicester are a different team when he's a factor.
Was he injured today? I think I saw.
Oh, is he really not been selected?
Come on.
Right.
I saw a physio come on during the match for Maddison. I don't know if he carried on from it.
Well, if he's fit, he adds that different dimension, doesn't it? But Barnes and Vardy are working well up top at the moment for them. So they've got solutions. And Rodgers is a manager I really rate. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Vardy as an option. But I just, like I say, he's always a player hard to read. Jesus, we've both got him on the watch list now. I guess we've got to, haven't we? While Aguero's injured, that's the rule, isn't it? If one of them's injured, you go for the fit one because you know they're going to regular starts. Torres is worrying me, though, because he actually has been too good and actually does offer Pep an option to Jesus. But do you see it?
Yeah,
do you see Jesus not starting?
I do, and it's another one where, given City have really struggled when they've had no striker, it's the kind of thing where they're winning 2 or 3-0. Then it's an easy, like we sort of, Aguero last season, 60-minute mark, Aguero's coming off. I think they've got so limited, like, out-and-out striker options at that club that they need to be really careful with. They've got Jesus, who's pretty injury-prone anyway. They've got Aguero, who's injury-prone, running out of contract, and is getting on a bit now. So I think they need to manage them maybe more than we've seen. And I think, Sterling hasn't really worked in that position, but I think Torres has definitely looked a lot better. So I think he is an option for him. Yeah,
Jesus again. If I'm moving off Kane, has got to be. So I mean, I've looked at forwards because of Danny Ings' injury. Right, that's a cruel blow to Ings owners. And I think we said it last week about suddenly there's a lack of forward options. So I brought up a table here of forwards over the last 4 game weeks. And when you look at the names on there, we've mentioned Vardy already. Obviously, Kane is already a player in most of our teams, as is Calvert-Lewin. But really, you're looking at Bamford, Wilson, or Watkins, or Mopé, aren't you? And suddenly, they're players all with shortcomings, right? Do we trust? Do we trust that lot?
What a mix!
It's difficult, isn't it? There are, we talked a few weeks ago about you got to have 3 up front, but actually, I don't know if you can really, because I don't think there are at the moment. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin and Kane. Wilson looks the next best option, and he's a player you had in your starting team, and then opted to take him out. What do you make of him? What's your feelings about him at the moment?
He's so frustrating because he's a player who I had in my starting team, didn't go with. When anyone asks me, they say, I've got 6.5 to spend, who should I get? I say Wilson every time. I think we talked about it last week. We were talking about Bamford and Wilson, and I said still think Wilson's a better option. Like when you just have that player who you're always championing, always talking about, but you never seem to get in. And I'm looking at Mopé and I'm thinking, God, it'd be such an easy switch for me just to dump Mopé and then get Wilson in, who I think is going to keep delivering. I just think he's a great option. I just think the players that Newcastle bought just complement Wilson so well, and they're just a team who are just gonna do all right this season. I think they're not. I don't think they're gonna. But is it?
I mean, let's have a look at go back to the team attacking stats and see where Newcastle are on there. So actually, the last 4 game weeks, Newcastle ranked 5th for minutes per XG. They've got an XG every 64.8 minutes, which isn't bad. It's above Chelsea and it's above Man City over the last 4 game weeks. But do we have an identity problem in Newcastle? Because I think every time I see one of my defenders up against Newcastle, I think, I'm looking at that this week. McCarthy, right? Home to Newcastle, I'm thinking there's a chance for a clean sheet there. Is that is that an error? Or have we got to rethink? Is it because of Steve Bruce, or is it years gone by, we see Newcastle as a negative team? What is it?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I just think I think they are transitioning into more of an attacking force. I think with Fraser and Sir Maximan behind Wilson. I mean there's trickery there. There's pace. There's good finishing ability from Wilson up front, and then you add in some of the other options they've got, with Shelby, the creativity, with Alma on there. They're players who now I think can hurt teams with that. So I still think defensively they can be got at. I don't look at their defence and think, they're going to keep close at clean sheets. So if I'm looking at my attacking players, I'm thinking, I think we could still get something from this. Like as United showed when they, sort of burned through them in about 30 minutes with when they were looking quite comfortable. I think that they concede a goal and I think they can lose a bit of their confidence. But attacking wise, if I've got a defender up against them, then I'm definitely not as confident.
So what is it then? I mean, why don't we trust Wilson and Newcastle then? I mean, because I'm the same. I look at it and think, if I'm downgrading Kane, I don't know if I want. And yet Wilson at Bournemouth, loved it. Wilson at Newcastle, not so sure. What's that about? I don't really understand it.
Wilson's just a nightmare because he's that kind of player who you think as soon as I bring him in, he's going to go like 4 or 5 games without a goal. He is like super troll, isn't he? He's like if you were like epitomising a fantasy football troll as Callum Wilson right at the top. I've been burned by him. I think everyone's got a horror story of owning Callum Wilson at Bournemouth. But I think Newcastle are a better team than Bournemouth were.
Do you? Yeah, I mean, obviously last season, but seasons gone by, I thought Bournemouth were a really good attacking side, but it didn't work out last season, obviously.
Well, they were a good attacking side mainly because they had Fraser and Wilson. Who Newcastle have got now, and they've got a better quality of players around them too. Yeah. So I think in general they are a better team. I mean, Bournemouth were a very, very attacking side. Newcastle, I think, are transitioning more that way, which is good for the league and good for Newcastle fans in theory and in general, because you're going to enjoy watching their games a bit more. No, I really like Callum Wilson. I mean, I've got Mopé, he's got Burnley at home, and then I'm probably going to be looking at getting Wilson in. The fixtures I don't think are amazing for. Well,
let's have a look.
Wilson though.
Newcastle's fixtures. I mean, they're second on the ticker for attacking potential over the next 6 game weeks. Southampton this weekend away, Chelsea at home, Crystal Palace away, Villa away, West Brom at home, Leeds away. That run from game week 10 is not bad. 3 away games in 4.
Okay. Yeah, okay, no, it's better than I thought. Yeah, so it could be game week 10 that maybe I look to get get Wilson in. But yeah, I definitely think out of all of these 6.5 options and around that mark, Wilson is definitely the one that I pick.
Right. I mean, if you go back,
What do you think? Would you still backing Bamford or
I
someone
probably,
else?
you know what I mean. I think I would go Bamford because he just excites me a bit more, which is probably completely wrong. But I like a ticket in the Leeds raffle. I think I like watching Leeds play, and I think Bamford will frustrate me. What worries me about Bamford is I see Leeds fans who are sceptical still about him. And if they're saying that and they know more about him than I do, they saw him a lot more last season, and he made them, I'm sure, put their head in their hands last season more than a few times. Then that worries me because is what we've seen of Bamford so far not the real Bamford? Has he raised it, but it's not sustainable, and that's probably likely, I would say. But
your stats about Leeds indicate because they're so attacking, because they create so many chances, and because they are this attacking side, which we're still not entirely sure if Newcastle have become that yet. But if Leeds are that attacking side and you've got the striker for that attacking team, then I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, he only needs to put in one of 4 chances. If he gets 8 chances a match, he's going to get
this
a brace.
is it.
So,
but Wilson is on penalties. It's kind of Bielsa versus
Yeah.
Steve Bruce, isn't it? And when you put it like that,
yeah. The penalties, though, is big. I mean, Wilson is scoring quite a few of those.
yeah,
And as I said, with the tricky players in Saint-Maximin and Fraser, that suits a penalty taker because they get into the box, they get fouled, and he steps up and takes it. I mean, it's going to keep happening. I think with any team with these kind of tricky players around them are going to draw fouls.
Did you see the penalty?
Saint-Maximin the most fouled player in the league?
Is he
Grealish?
even more than Grealish? Right, possibly.
I think Grealish is either first or second with Saint-Maximin there too.
Did you see the penalty that Wilson earned against Everton, though?
Yeah.
I mean, he's clever, isn't he? I mean, people talk about Harry Kane, but Wilson knew what he was doing there as well, I think. I mean, the good strikers are wising up to the fact that touch you in the box now, you're going to get a penalty. And he's profited. His XG non-penalty is 2.5 and Bamford's XG non-penalty is 4.4. So at the moment, Bamford exceeds him for XG, but it's about the finishing. And at the moment, yes, Bamford has delivered 3 goals in the last 4 game weeks. But Wilson's bettered that with 4 goals and 2 assists. It's hard to ignore him, but I don't know. Why did I prefer Wilson in a Bournemouth team where Josh King's taking penalties to him in a Newcastle team where he takes the penalties? And I just don't... I've got to kind of get over that, and
I know what you mean though, because it's the style of play, isn't it? I mean, it's to do with you think Bournemouth could go into a game and score 3 or 4 goals. A Bournemouth game's never going to be 0-0, whereas a Newcastle game could be 0-0. So that's the difference. You think there's going to be goals in any game Bournemouth go in, and there's always a chance of Wilson scoring, whereas you maybe don't have that so much with Newcastle. But yeah, I think there's enough. There's enough to make me think that Wilson is going to keep firing. I wish I'd just started with him because I'd been such a better place now if I did.
Yeah. Well, lesson learned. Let's look at the fixtures for this week, shall we? We'll go through these as quick as we can. Brighton versus Burnley. Let's get through that one quite quickly, I think. What do you think? Surely your boy's here. Surely.
Well, the question I'm getting asked a lot on Twitter and stuff is what the hell happened with Ryan and Mopé? And are they going to be straight back in? From what I understand, I don't know what's going on with Ryan. Potter said that he wanted to rest him because he's played so many games. I think that's an absolute lie.
Yeah, I mean, he said he's played 2 or 3 years of fixtures. It's like, is that his rotation policy? Every 2 or 3 years he's going to rest the player? It's like very odd.
I mean, there's signs coming out that Mopé's been in a bust up with someone, and that's why he was dropped. And Potter's now said that's clear. I mean, they're two. Honestly, we're alongside like Lamptey. They're our most important players. Like we can't just exclude them from the squad forever. We need Ryan in goal. We need Mopé. I mean, the problem is with both of them is that they've been massively underperforming this season. Mopé had a great start, and then the last couple of games has been awful. So I think it's actually quite good from Potter just to bin them both off, and just it's a bit of like you're not kind of you're not invincible in this team. Just because you're 2 main players doesn't mean you're going to play every minute, even when you're underperforming. So I'm hoping that kind of galvanises them a little bit. I think they'll both be straight in for this Burnley match, and I think we'll win it. So I'm going to go with.
So you're going for Ryan recall then, are you? Interesting.
Definitely. Okay. I mean, Ryan is, he's been so good for us. I mean, this season, you look at his XG prevented, and it's awful. It's right down the bottom. He needs to step it up, but there's no way that he's going to suddenly just be, stricken from the team. He's too important for us. We need him
Because Sanchez as a 4 million option would have been nice.
Yeah,
but...
I definitely wouldn't be going there. Ryan will be back. I reckon we'll win this 1 or 2 0, I reckon.
So Steer is safe in my team. I'm not going to go Steer to Sanchez then. That's fine.
I wouldn't. That
So
seems
you're
a bit
going to
of a
Brighton
luxury
win.
move.
I'm going to Brighton win as well. I think Burnley will score though. I mean, how do you normally cope with Burnley? How do you normally cope with Wood and Barnes?
Well, we don't do very well
Right.
in set pieces, despite having like absolute colossi of centre backs. Is Dunk back for this one, or has he got another?
Not
game
sure
out?
he is. I think he's got one more. Yeah.
If he's got one more out, then yeah, probably Burnley will score from that. But yeah, that's going to be the issue. Is if we can defend the set pieces well, then I think we'll be fine. If we can't, then we flounder around like we do, and yeah, it's a nightmare watching us at times. So yeah, that's the big question. Can our centre backs deal with Wood from set pieces?
I'm going to go 2-1 as well. Southampton, Newcastle. Now, Southampton with Danny Ings would win this game. What we don't know is how Danny Ings' absence, he's out for 5 or 6 weeks with a knee injury, how that's going to affect, we know it's obviously going to hit their attack. Is it also going to affect them in defence? Because Ings is a pressing forward, cuts a lot of stuff off at source. I think they could have problems here. I mean, Che Adams has done well this season, but he relied a lot on Ings as his partner. Ings is actually quite a creative player. He's grown into that, not only a player who scores goals, but one who can set players up and make runs, unselfish runs. He's really grown as a player, so he's a big loss. Shane Long or Bafemi is going to come in, I guess, but they're going to struggle. I think Newcastle are going to win.
Yeah? What score?
2-0.
Said with real conviction.
I've got McCarthy in goal, so it hurts me. But I mean, I'm obviously going to start McCarthy because there's always a chance that they will keep them out. But Newcastle have got confidence, haven't they? And Wilson's, I think, going to cause some problems. Southampton's defence is good at home and has been vastly improved. So hopefully I'm wrong in thinking that Ings' absence is going to be a factor throughout the team, and their defence will be unaffected. They'll be able to hold on, keep a clean sheet and maybe nick a goal. But I worry that Ings is a loss throughout the team, not just up front. What are you going for?
I think both teams are capable of capitulating massively in this game. I think it's going to be a battle of kind of psychology almost to see who, I think if a team... I mean, look at Southampton in that game against Villa. I mean, were they 4-0 up in that game and ended up 4-3? And loads of goals scored in the last kind of few minutes. That's when Grealish really kind of came in. I think he got 2 goals or goal and assist in the last 7 minutes, didn't he?
Beautiful man.
Yeah, absolutely great. So, for all of Southampton's defensive results, they are capable of conceding quick-fire goals. Newcastle as well, like I said, against United, looking really good. And then all of a sudden, just switch off and just everything falls apart.
Are you going for a Friday evening goal fest then to warm the couples?
I think it could be. I think it could be something like 2-2.
Really? Something
like that. I reckon it is an even bolder. This is something you won't get from Mark Lawrenson. I'm going to say a team to be winning 2-0. I don't know which one. One of them to be winning 2-0, then a 2-2 draw.
I'll tell you what I do get from Mark Lawrenson. A better moustache than you've got at the moment.
Yeah, well, you wait. Give it a few weeks.
Everton United. Tricky, isn't it? But Charlton's not back yet.
Dean is. What's happening with James James Rodriguez?
Don't know yet. We don't know. We haven't heard on
something I never thought I'd be saying on there.
We haven't heard what state his ball bags are in going into the United game, so to speak. I'm going to go 1-1. That's a popular score around these parts, isn't it? I think United are troubled. Everton have got players missing. 1-1.
I think United will win it.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm going to back United winning this one. They've been better away from home than at home for some reason. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense with no fans around. I just think United. I know Solskjaer is again another divisive figure, but their squad is just too good. You
think, wouldn't you?
You think, and I look at Everton. I think they're in a bit of a rut at the moment.
Well, their defence is troubled, as we saw in the data. Martial's back for United. Could we be looking at Martial again? Should he be on the watch list?
I'm thinking about it.
Are you?
For that West Brom game?
Okay.
I mean, if I was going to lose if I was going to lose Kane and Son, I could get Martial and De Bruyne, which is fairly tempting. But then it feels like I'm losing Kane for Martial, and it's like, whoa, that's a pretty big call. But yeah, no, I fancy United. I think they will get some credibility back in this one. I'm going to go for 2-1.
Crystal Palace Leeds then. I'll go Leeds again. I want to back them here. It's difficult to say how they're going to deal with Palace because obviously Palace will sit back and try and counter. Leeds only know one way of playing, it seems. I think they'll concede, sadly, Leeds. Makes me think I won't start Ayling, but I think they'll win 3-1. I think they'll get goals.
Whoa. I think the exact opposite.
Do you? You're going Palace?
Yeah. I'm going to Palace 1-0.
Really?
It just seems all set up for like a Roy Hodgson masterclass with Leeds attack after attack after attack. Zaha gets a breakaway goal and they see it through to the end.
Hodgson versus Bielsa, two veterans of the... Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Chelsea, Sheffield United, I can't see anything other than a Chelsea win and a clean sheet. It's just a question of how many they get.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it fairly conservative and go 2-0.
Right. I really want... I mean, this is the problem. I think if Lampard says, Pulisic is out of this... I don't know what to do with Pulisic. It's really frustrating because this is the game that I want him for.
You really?
It's the game I want Pulisic for.
Do you? Okay. Well, I don't think Sheffield United are mugs, are they? I mean, we saw them at Liverpool. We made it difficult. Made it, they're not walkovers, I don't think. So
they're a bit mugs.
Okay, they were a bit mugs. Okay.
I don't know. I'd be really happy if I had Werner or Pulisic or a nailed on Chelsea attacker in this fixture. I think I am probably going to move Pulisic over to Ziyech,
right,
just to make sure I've got one attacker in this game because I think this could be a 3 or 4-0 Chelsea.
Okay, and West Ham, Fulham, tricky. I think Fulham are going to score. I mean, I am looking at Creswell, but Fulham come off the back of the win against West Brom. You look at this fixture and think West Ham clean sheet, easy win, but Fulham might nick one. I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. I hope it's a clean sheet, but I just don't see it. I think West Ham might be a bit slack and let one in.
You hope it's a clean sheet? Why is that?
Because I was looking at Cresswell, so I might get Cresswell as well. You'll see in a minute. You'll see in a minute.
I think West Ham will win it. We don't know what's wrong with is Antonio.
No news on him yet, but we don't expect with the break coming up. I don't think West Ham will throw him in. They're going to give him longer. He's a player.
They don't need to. I don't think in this one they've got
shouldn't
so many.
Need to. Haller's terrible, but they should still have enough. So.
I reckon 3-1 and Souček to get his first goal.
Oh, lovely! I'll take that. West Brom Spurs again. We're only seeing one way here, aren't we? I mean, West Brom tried to attack at Fulham, got taken out. I can't see anything other than I'm going 3-0 Spurs. I think it'll be quite a heavy win for them.
Yeah, and I mean this is the reason why I just couldn't not get Kane. If they'd had a tougher game, then I definitely would have got him. But this West Brom game, when you've got, I don't like to look at ownership, but when you're looking at like someone with like 160, 170%,
scary, isn't it?
Ownership, and they're playing West Brom, it's like that game could just absolutely cripple my season. It's worth just getting him just to kind of protect against that, because if he gets a hat trick in that and I haven't got him, I'm like 40 points off everyone else. So it's just not worth the risk.
That's why you did it, was it? That's why you moved for Kane reluctantly, just to cover this game. Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I hate that. That's not how I like to play. That's not how I like to play the game. I mean, it's not just coverage. It's also, if I really didn't feel that Kane was going to do well in this game, then I wouldn't have got him. But it's West Brom. All the things you've shown, West Brom are bottom. They're gonna, and Spurs are another good win tonight. When they play their first 11, they're scoring. So I just can't see any way in which West Brom get a result in this game, or that Kane doesn't get some points.
What was extraordinary as well was I looked at the attacking data here. If you look at West Brom, minutes per big chance, they've got 0 there. They've only had one big chance all season. Yeah. They've only created one big chance all season. So they've created none in the last 4 game weeks. So over the season, minutes per big chance, 660 minutes per big chance. I looked at that and thought, that's got to be wrong, because the next one is 66 minutes, 0.4, Sheffield United. It's not wrong. West Brom have had one big chance all season. So as well, you've got to think it's a clean sheet for Spurs, which, Spurs clean sheets aren't that easy to predict, but you've got to think this is one as well. Yeah, 3-0 for me.
Or they do a typical Spurs and concede.
Well, we all backed Chelsea to destroy West Brom, but West Brom started off and went 3-0 up, didn't they? So, maybe we're going to be wrong, but I can't see it. Leicester Wolves, much tougher to call.
Low scoring.
You'd think, wouldn't you? You'd think. I just get a feeling Wolves are going to nick it. I think what I saw from Wolves with the fullbacks, with the wing backs in there and operable, against Palace. Suddenly they had an option on the left without Saiss, because Saiss is not a wing back. And Semedo had a better game. And it meant that Podence and Neto could just tuck in a bit more. They were more involved. I think Wolves are going to nick a 1-0. Again, I'm backing against Leicester. I'm going to be wrong. Why have I got to get it in for Leicester? But I just, I'm going to
go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 0-0. I think the way both teams set up is just they're going to try and stifle each other. And I think if you can block the threat of Vardy, and Wolves are a bit hit and miss attacking wise anyway. I think Rodgers will know how to kind of keep the goals low. I think a 0-0 or maybe a 1-1. I'll stick with
they're both going to be 5 at the back, aren't they? Based on what Leicester have been doing recently. And Podence was really. He had a really good performance against Palace. Got the goal. Was unlucky not to get the assist. I tried to ring through, but they wouldn't give it to him. I've tried. They wouldn't. Picked up the phone the first time. Yeah. Second time they just ignored my call, so they ended up not giving it to him. Bit harsh, I thought. But he impressed me and made me think I've got to keep him for at least another couple of weeks. Although Wolves' fixtures are really, really tough coming up, so we'll see how he does in this one. But I hope Wolves are going to nick it.
Saiss is such a funny one, isn't it? I mean, you're an owner of Saiss, and you've had him up until now, and you're thinking, he's one of the top scoring defenders in the game.
Well, he was at one point.
67 minutes. Yeah, he's gone for 67 minutes, a banked his clean sheet, and then all of a sudden he's just out of the team. And I don't think there's an easy way back in for him, because I don't think he can touch Kilman, Cody, and Bolly at the moment.
No.
And they need their wing backs to be creating. So I think if you've got Saiss, I think you've got to get rid.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, you must feel like you got revenge there for the Saiss clean sheet.
I did, yeah. And I'm quite happy with Semedo, because I wanted to see a bit more from him. I don't, I'm paying sort of 5.5 for Semedo. He can't just be someone who ticks along with your clean sheet. I need to see some attacking sort of swagger from him, and I think we finally got that in the week. So I'm hoping that continues. Because you never know. I mean, they had an easy game, didn't they, against Palace, and it gives him license to bomb forward a bit. But the signs were definitely encouraging. He could have scored, actually. He should have. I think he probably should have scored, and 2 bonus as well, which is nice to finally get some.
Yeah,
some
no, he's definitely settling, and I think they just looked a completely different team.
Yeah,
once they had some movement on the left wing back position, it meant Podence and Neto were more involved and came alive. What's interesting is they won that game and Jimenez didn't get anything. And yet when they play badly, Jimenez somehow gets a scruffy goal or gets a worldie from outside the box. He managed to drag them to victories in previous games. But in a game where Wolves played well, he didn't really look like scoring. So bit of a strange one. But yeah, I think he's still an easy sell.
His role is developing there, isn't it? It's changing more from... the fact that we talked about last week with him kind of operating sort of outside the penalty area when corners are being taken and things. I think because now they're only playing one of Neves and Moutinho. They do lack that kind of creativity more centrally. So him dropping deeper and actually being able to, a bit like Kane.
He's watching Harry, isn't he? Yeah.
He's watching Harry, thinking maybe that's a better role for him.
Because he's got Neto and Podence, who are both quick, very similar, similar setup to Moore and Son. Yeah, Bale and Son maybe now. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll see how Wolves develop. But I was encouraged by that, and it meant that Podence isn't the sell that I thought he was going to be just yet. Man City, Liverpool. A lot of people saying, as I said, we're just picking out Man City for a win here. I don't necessarily think it will. I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool. I just think Liverpool.
Whoa.
I've got a stronger attack than City at the moment. I think that's difficult to deny. Whereas City haven't found the groove in attacking terms, they're not creating the big chances as we saw earlier. Liverpool definitely are, and they've got Salah, they've got Mane, and they've got Jota, who probably will have to come off the bench. I think they're going to score a couple, and it's whether or not they can keep City out at the other end, of course. But I think who will they play alongside Gomez? Matip might be back, and if Matip's back, that could be huge. Fabinho might even be fit, so we'll find out. But
would you throw in a kind of a potentially semi-fit Matip though, rather than one of the centre backs that's actually been doing quite well for them? I mean, Phillips was fantastic in their last game.
Phillips reminded me of Hippier. He was very strong in the air. I don't know how he'd cope with City's attack. Reece Williams might be the better option because he looked good in the week. So it could be him who starts. I guess we'll find out what Fabinho and Matip's fitness are. Klopp's not going to take a risk. I think City score, yeah, but I think Liverpool can outscore them. So I'm going to go Liverpool win, which the other outcome here could be that neither of them go for it and it plays out either a 0-0 or 1-0.
Yeah.
Because City will look at it and think that Liverpool are vulnerable. They're going to lose a few more games. It's not like last season because of the injury to Van Dijk. So Man City will think we can bide our time. We can just make sure we don't lose this and wait for our opportunity when Liverpool drop points. So Pep might go into it like that. And Pep, in many ways, is quite defensive in his way of thinking. So he might actually look to manage this and get a draw out of this rather than go all guns blazing to beat them. But because of the 4-0 last time out, I think it was 4-0, people are back in City. But I think you've got to remember Liverpool won the title at that point. So it's difficult to make a call on that. I'm still going to stick with Liverpool to nick it.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I wouldn't be surprised to see either team winning it quite comfortably. I think the last time I thought that was that United-Chelsea game, which ended up being one of the worst games of football I've ever watched. So I think your prediction of it maybe being a bit cagier is probably right. I think a draw is probably likely. I'm going to go for the famous 1-1.
1-1. Okay.
1-1. I think there is definitely potential if City do decide to really turn it up. I think their centre backs of Liverpool, they need to be, if they switch off or if they're not quite on it. And I still don't really trust Gomez with Van Dijk not alongside him. So I think a City win is more likely, but I'm going to back a draw.
All right. And finally, Arsenal-Villa. I don't see many goals in this. We saw Arsenal's defence is right up there. Villa, I'm not convinced on Watkins yet. Obviously the hat-trick against Liverpool, but he hasn't done too much since then. He took the penalty off Grealish. Yeah, I know. I don't think Villa... Villa are going to go here and think, well, we'll take a point for a start. And Arsenal are very pragmatic in their approach. They're not going to give too much away. I'll go an Arsenal win by 1-0, I think.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are going to win it more comfortably. I think we could get something from Grealish in that. I think Villa will score. Yeah. I'm thinking more of a 3-1 Arsenal.
I think that is it.
I just think they're playing Villa at quite a good time, and they've had the good result now against United. Their confidence is up. Aubameyang's got his goal and kind of ended that drought, although it's from a penalty. But it just feels like quite a routine game at the moment for Arsenal, and I think Arteta has got them sort of winning those games that you'd expect them to win more often than we saw under Emery. So it would be a big shock if Villa won that game, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think Arsenal.
I think your point on Grealish is good though. He's the kind of player where you think there's not any opponent he can't do it against.
No,
that's why he's lovely to own. Because you just you play him in every game. You think he can pull something out of the hat, can't he? Because he is that player. So I go into that game and think, well, Arsenal aren't going to give him much, but he could return again, which is another reason why he's such a good own this season so far. Anyway, okay, time to look at our teams.
We should track these and see how many we get wrong each week.
I don't want to do that because no, they're predictions with tongue in cheek, really, aren't they?
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not our game at all. This is more our game, we hope, but we'll see. Okay, what are you doing then? We've got one transfer. You've got Pulisic flagged. You've got Lamptey flagged. You've got Mitchell flagged. You've got problems.
Well, I've got a few flags, but I've got quite a good squad to kind of go over. I mean, Mopay, I'm not worried about. I think there's just no way that Mopay is going to be.
Yeah, he's straight back in.
Is going to be cut out. I mean, we do. It's him or Welbeck. I mean, we've got Connolly, but Connolly needs someone alongside him. He's not good enough to lead the line on his own. So Mopay's back in. Pulisic probably won't play. Depends on what Lampard says. Lamptey, I don't really know. I don't really know what's going on. He's had a couple of flags this season and been okay. So I'm not too worried about him. But I mean, if I do nothing, then I've got Souček at the moment is on my bench, who I could end up playing. I'm not sure over who, but I'm looking at him thinking, Fulham at home. I don't really want to be benching Souček. And then I've got Eiling away at Palace. So, if I do have a couple of players miss out, I've got two players who I want to play anyway who can come in. So I'm not panicking too hard. The thing is, I really want in a Chelsea player for that Sheffield United match, and I am thinking that long term. Given what I've seen with Werner and Pulisic and Abraham, that maybe getting away from that left-hand side and switching over to the right with Ziyech probably is quite a sensible move. So I think I'm going to do Pulisic to Ziyech. He's going up in price tonight. So I think I'll probably do it after this stream. Maybe not live. Maybe I'll just give it a little
almost
bit of time.
an early transfer. What would Joe say about that? That'd be outrageous. Okay, but you're not thinking about banking your transfer for the international break, because that is the popular. You are right, yeah.
Yeah, that is the key, because I mean, if I banked it and then Spurs' fixture change, and then I could move Kane and Souček out and get De Bruyne in, so I could move early and get De Bruyne in. But then he's got Spurs away, so that's not an amazing fixture to be moving to. What I always planned to do was look at getting a United player in, and I was set on Fernandes, but I don't know. I mean, that West Brom game looks so good, and I think United will win that comfortably. But then, I mean, they've got a decent run, but I still don't know if they're going to really deliver in all those games. So it feels like it's a 1 week move, and I want De Bruyne, so I don't think I'm going to be able to have De Bruyne and Fernandes. And
who were you going to get Fernandes out? Were you going to get Son out for Fernandes then? Were you?
Well, I wasn't really thinking about City when I first thought about it. I was thinking of getting Fernandes in, so doing a similar move. So Kane to Bamford or someone, and then Souček to Fernandes. But now I'm thinking it should be City that I'm prioritising. So I could get a United player and a City player if I got rid of Son and Kane, which I am thinking about. The run, the run is so bad. Let me just remind you of the run that Spurs have got. It could not be worse.
Bring it
City
up here.
At home, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Crystal Palace away, Liverpool away, Leicester at home, Wolves away. I mean, that is awful.
If you were keeping one of them, you'd keep Son, would you? Don't want to say, do you?
It's really tough. I mean, I think Kane is gonna keep doing all right this season.
Well, he's got the pens, hasn't he?
He's got the pens as well. He's I don't think suddenly they're both not going to get any points.
No, sure.
Over that run, but it's just, can I get a player in who's gonna do better? I like Son because I think in these games we could see Kane dropping deeper to make things happen, and Son and Bale running off him, like we've seen. So I like that. I think there's pros and cons of both of them. Kane's more expensive though at 11, and it's an easier way of getting in a City player if I lose him. So I'm leaning towards that. I think Son's stats compared to Kane. I mean, Kane just blows him out of the water at the moment.
Well, we'll look at those in a minute. We'll look at those
stats as well. Very nice.
When we look at the captaincy, which you've got on Kane at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Kane. I got in Kane for this week. I just think this is a game primed for Kane.
You say that now. Just give me a few minutes.
Yeah,
and possibly you might change your mind.
Looking forward to it.
Let's just bring my team up, because I don't really know what to do. I've got 2 free transfers, so I'm in this luxurious position. I'm going to go one of the Liverpool defenders to Chilwell, and it probably will be Robertson. And then I'm probably going to go with James, Chilwell, and Alexander-Arnold, although it's tempted to play Dino at home to United or Alien away at Palace.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to back Trent, just because you never know. It would just be like him to deliver something against City, wouldn't it? And I do think Liverpool can win that game.
You can't bench Trent.
I don't think so either. No, I agree. I just don't think you can, because he can do it against anyone, just like Grealish can, because his delivery from wide and his free kicks, no defence can defend against them when they're at their best, right? His crosses or his direct free kicks. So it doesn't matter who you got in goal, who you got in defence, he can deliver a ball that no one can defend. So I'm going to play him, and I'm going to get Chilwell in, because the numbers I saw earlier convinced me that Chilwell can probably match Robertson when you think about the clean sheet aspect of it as well. And I'd like to watch Chelsea and have James and Chilwell in that team. Yeah. Just like I like watching Liverpool with Robertson and Trent. I think it's a very similar feeling that they offer me, that they're both so far forward. So I'm going to start James. Hopefully he plays. If he doesn't, hopefully he doesn't come on, and then I get Dino or Alien off the bench. And other than that, I'm going to bank my other transfer to take 2 into the break and then see what happens. But like you, I'm looking at Son and Kane out. Probably.
Are you?
Yeah, I think I have to. So probably for game week 10, I won't have either of the Spurs players, and I'll have De Bruyne and maybe Vardy, if I can afford it. It really depends on whether Kane or Son go up over the international break. If they deliver points at West Brom, you've got to think they're going to rise in price, which means that even though they've got bad fixtures, there will be people who still buy them if they score heavily. And if they do go up in price, I think I can just about afford De Bruyne and Vardy, but we'll see. So I'm going to use one transfer, bank the other one, and take 2 into the break and give myself a bit more time. I mean, it worked, did it? Last week I said I'm not going to make any transfers because every time I make a transfer, I'm not doing well with it. And I got my best game week of the season. So
Yeah.
I'm almost reluctant to make 2 transfers, even though I've got them, because it's proven that if I take my hands off my team, I might be better off.
I know. It's a weird one, isn't it? You got no arguments with your team this week. I think it's set up very nice, and I'm sure you needed that confirmation from me. So,
well, it does help. After the red arrows, we needed that bit, and I'm feeling more confident about it now. And I think James and Chilwell is a nice combination. We'll see what Trent does, and Souček. It's about time he delivers, isn't it? So I've got the captaincy on Kane as well. And yeah, looking at the matrix, we always had this in mind. Game week 8, Kane and Son against West Brom. Now, looking at the other options, Werner at Sheffield United is the only other one I think that competes with Kane and Son, but I think it's miles behind. Looking forward, it's all really about Liverpool and City. You've got Salah versus Leicester in game week 9, or you back Sterling or De Bruyne at Spurs. Game week 10, it's Salah at Brighton or De Bruyne or Sterling at home to Burnley. Game week 11, you've got City at home to Fulham, so you're on De Bruyne or Sterling. And game week 12, it's Liverpool at Fulham. So really, it's about having Salah and a City asset after this week, isn't it? I would say. Looking at this week in particular, it's Kane or Son. Now, you mentioned last week about you would consider Son rather as your captain. And you're right, all the data is in Kane's favour. Minutes per XGI and non-penalty, Kane's got expected goal involvement every 117 minutes compared to Son on 152.4. And he's ahead of him for minutes per points, minutes per shot. He's been involved in 14 goals this season compared to Son's 10. No contest. But when you look at the away data, Son is a better option, it seems. But what do you think about that? I mean, we haven't got a big sample of away games, that's the thing. But I looked last season and it was the case then. Not so much, but Son was decent away from home compared to Kane.
I haven't got any stats to back this up, but I think West Brom are weaker down their right side as well, which should suit Son.
Yes. Let me back that up with some data.
So that wasn't even planned. I didn't even know that. So look at that.
Percentage of chances conceded on the right flank, right? They've conceded 45% of chances on their right flank, which will be where Son is up against their right flank. Now, only team to concede more, or 2 teams conceded more, that's Southampton and Sheffield United, 46%. Interesting that Sheffield United are 46%, so Chilwell should get some joy down that side. But West Brom have a weakness down that side, right? We've seen it, and the stats bear it out. So Son could be a good option. And if you look at the heat map as well, looking at heat maps here for Kane and Son away from home, Son has actually had more touches in the box and he's further forward. If you see from Kane's heat map, which isn't great if you're listening to the podcast, but generally what we're showing here is a heat map with Kane dropping deeper away from home and Son having more touches in the box. I think it's 15 touches in the box for Son compared to 9 from Kane away from home. So there is a case for going Son, and I can exclusively reveal that Sever actually got in touch with me and said, I'm captaining Son.
Yeah.
And Zofor on FPL Wire has gone Son as well, and he's put a big post about it up this week.
Well, I mean, a good comparison is the week before last, Spurs played Burnley away, and who got the returns in that? Son, and who came away with just 1 assist? Kane. So if you're thinking West Brom's probably going to be a similar type of game to that, probably with more goals for Spurs, but they're playing a team that's definitely going to sit back and aren't going to offer anything going forward. My kind of first thoughts are Kane's better because he doesn't need to dictate play in the middle. He can come forward more. They're going to get corners. He's such a threat of those, not taking them, which is something
for his manager.
So I'm looking at that and thinking a more kind of adventurous and dangerous Kane in that game is good for his captain credentials. But yeah, I mean the right side data on West Brom is interesting, and the fact that he delivered against Burnley, because you think I think someone said in the chat that Son's better against the better teams because they press high and stuff, but like I remember his goals against Burnley last season, Son's, when he ran from like the halfway line and then scored goal of the season, and delivered again against them. So he's not just a case of they sit deep, so Son isn't going to perform. He clearly can still do well against the deep lying teams. So yeah, I mean perhaps this is really interesting because I was just set on Kane, hadn't even considered.
So was I.
But yeah, the data suggests it could be a lot closer. Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the moment I'm still on Kane, but I think it will go right to the wire. I mean, obviously we've only got till 4:00 tomorrow, which might be a good thing because we're not going to be wringing our hands all night on a Friday evening, waking up Saturday morning. So we've got to make our minds up by tomorrow afternoon. But it's gone from being definitely on Kane to, will I take a risk on Son? I mean, obviously Kane delivered in Europe as well, just a reminder. And he's been tremendous in terms of goals involvement, not just scoring goals, but assists. So, and the penalties. But the thing is with Son, he gets the extra point. He's got the clean sheet point. As we saw, West Brom very unlikely to score. It's a close one, isn't it?
Those pens. I think it's those pens that just swings it to Kane. Because, I mean, if anyone's going to commit a foul, it's going to be Ivanovic.
Yeah, West Brom have conceded penalties this season.
Yeah, as he hacks down Son. So yeah, probably a couple of Son assists, but it's going to be Kane banging in the penalties.
Well, I'll
probably keep it with Kane.
I think I am as well. I'll tweet tomorrow before deadline if I change my mind. But if you don't hear from me on Twitter, I've stuck with Kane. I'm sure we'll see what you do as well. Okay, it's just one thing left to do then, Az. That's the usual endorsement of the smashing the subscribe and like button, of course.
Yeah. Well, 1,490 people watching at this point. So I think that's the most we've ever had, which is great.
Blimey. Mr. Slippers, we're coming for you.
I know. Only 200 likes. So if everyone liked the video, then we'd have over 1,000 likes. Just saying. But yeah, so if everyone could sub and like, that would be great. And if you're listening on Spotify, all the various podcasts, then make sure you subscribe on that too. There's also a link to my Movember thing, which I put in the chat just now. I'll put it in the description. So if everyone could donate £1 to that, then I'd have tripled my target of £500. So that'd be great as well.
I need to chip in, Az. I need to do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm going to take the mickey out of your moustache every week. I've got to actually pay some money towards it to do that. So
I mean, I guess it's not really abuse, but the stuff in the chat. I mean, I've been called Sue Perkins. I've been called Lord Farquaad. I've been called a 10-year-old boy. Yes, I'm very aware of all of these. Shaving is not a good look for me. I have too young a face for it. So.
When I shave, and I haven't wet shaved for about 10 years, people say I look like a newly born mole or something. It just look, and I haven't got much of a jawline, so it's like I just look like I'm not going there for that. But
like they say, like you should shave your head and shave your beard to see what your face actually looks like. Yeah, not a fan. Bring back.
Do they say that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they say everyone should shave their head once in their life to see what they truly look like. Well,
I'm losing my hair, and if the season gets any more unpredictable, I'm going to be completely bald by the end of the season. So we'll see how it goes. All right, it's a good night for me.
And good night, everyone.